if that's what Piers wants, that's fine. But he's wrong. He's wrong to want it, and he's wrong to call for a referendum.
Breaking right now, Piers Morgan has called for a new Brexit vote, just as there is real pressure building from Labour and from all the usual suspects to row back all of our hard-fought freedoms. And the Daily Express today leading on that pressure. Starmer really can't be trusted with our Brexit. Well, yes, I was saying that years ago because this was the guy, of course, who advocated for a second referendum, a people's vote, as he called it, even though we'd already had one. But look, let me take you through Piers Morgan's tweet. Then we'll get reaction from Ben Habib, former Brexit Party MEP. Piers posted on X, "It's now painfully obvious Brexit hasn't worked and is actively harming us economically. It didn't even control our bloody borders. Given the British people would clearly vote overwhelmingly to go back into the EU, we should have another referendum." Now, that is a real letdown from Piers, because Piers was one of these guys who was a Remoaner. He voted for Remain. But in fairness to him, after the vote, he wanted to respect democracy. Not anymore. He's basing this, by the way, on this new poll from YouGov, which shows the number of Britons saying the UK was right to vote to leave the EU, hitting its lowest level since the referendum ahead of the 5th anniversary of Brexit this week. Right to vote leave, 30% down from 3 in November. Wrong to vote for to leave, 55%. But as you'd expect, there's been a big reaction against Piers Morgan here. Sophie Corcoran posted, "No, my generation is someday going to inherit the country, and we should have a right to govern this country in the way we see fit without being told what to do by Europe." Richard Tice, deputy leader of Reform UK, wrote, "Piers, please explain why Germany, powerhouse of the EU, is suffering more than the UK and in recession for 2 years, likely third year in 2025. Why their exports are falling, given in single market and customs union. Why their real GDP is flat since 2019. Our respective struggles are zip to do with Brexit, but due to failed political class obsessed with net zero and mass immigration, both of which have made us poorer. Thankfully, out of the EU, we can work closer on trade with Trump as US will soar. Starmer, though, will fail due to his regulatory fantasies with the EU." And by the way, the new party leader approval tracker shows Starmer, slippery Starmer, as well and truly failing. He is now even more unpopular than fishy Rishi Sunak was at any point in his failed premiership. So Ben Habib is here, former deputy leader of Reform UK, of course now chair of the Great British Pact, but most importantly for this conversation, a former Brexit Party MEP. So Ben Habib, I actually want you to speak directly to Piers Morgan, because as I say, Piers was one of those guys who he was a Remainer, but then he did respect the vote. He no longer believes in that. What would be your message to him? Why is he wrong to advocate for a second referendum?
Well, he's just simply wrong at every level. I don't take much of what Piers Morgan says seriously because he flip-flops a lot, doesn't he? One minute he's pro something, then he's anti it.
Like COVID
vaccines
now, COVID vaccines, he says,
yes.
no, I should never have forced you to have a COVID vaccine. Well, at the time, he was saying if you didn't have a COVID vaccine, you shouldn't even receive health treatment, even if you have a heart attack. Anyway, sorry to interrupt, Ben.
But I mean, what I would say to him and to anyone, frankly, who wishes to go back into the European Union, let alone wanting a referendum. I mean, ultimately, they're only saying they want a referendum because they want to go back to the EU. It's not because they want to test the vote. It's they want to go back to the EU. But the EU is the ultimate in the liberal global order. The EU is the most highly regulated organism in Western civilization. It is also one that doesn't recognize nation states. It's taken down borders right across Europe. It is absolutely hollowing out a nation state. So if you care about borders, if you care about the democratic unit that is a nation state such as Germany, France, the United Kingdom, if you care about governance being for the people of those countries, the promotion of their interests, the protection of their culture, effectively the protection of Western civilization, if you care about that, you cannot be pro-EU. Pro-EU is the opposite of protecting Western civilization. And some people may say, "Oh, Ben, you're being a bit scaremongering," but look, they don't care. They don't care about nation states. The minute you cease to care about nation states because you want power in yourself, you are getting rid of Western culture, because culture comes through nation states. You get rid of Western culture, doesn't matter where you're from. You can be an immigrant, you can be born in Germany, France, wherever it is. Your parents could be Normans or they could be from Somalia. Who cares? And that's the end of our country and our cultures as we know them. So if that's what Piers wants, that's fine. But he's wrong. He's wrong to want it, and he's wrong to call for a referendum. The real issue with Brexit, and I've got a real issue with Brexit, is that we didn't get it. We left
No,
Northern
we
Ireland
didn't.
behind. We've left a grappling hook from the EU in the flesh of the United Kingdom. They keep yanking that hook. Starmer, therefore, has cover for wishing to go back to the EU. Thankfully, we've got Trump on the other side of the Atlantic, pulling him the other way. But let me just say this. Every single policy instituted by Trump cannot be introduced in the United Kingdom if we rejoin the EU. In fact, in order to deliver his agenda, we are going to have to cut more of our ties with the EU. We're going to have to jettison the treaties that Boris Johnson signed. We're going to have to tear them up because they require us to stay stuck in this liberal global order. And we can't ditch net zero. We can't ditch DEI. We can't genuinely put up our borders. We can't even cut taxes and deregulate if we do not ditch the EU completely. So what does Piers Morgan want? Does he want to watch us to just be washed over by the economic tsunami that will come if we don't react to Trump's incredibly pro-American growth strategy? Or does he want to, does he realize that that's where we've got to go? What does he want? What does Piers Morgan want?
But first, the reason you're watching this show is because you know that these days it's almost impossible to trust the mainstream media or the so-called fact-checkers who claim to patrol social media. And that's for a very good reason, given the Brexit debacle, COVID debate, and the demonisation of Donald Trump. But I have the solution. Today's sponsor, Ground News, created by a former NASA engineer to provide you with the only safe way to consume the headlines, is just brilliant. So go to ground.news/outspoken and check it out for yourself. But I want to show you this incredible website and app in action. So let's, for example, look at the recent story about Elon Musk falling out with Nigel Farage over Tommy Robinson. Of course, the left-wing media really tried to whip this whole thing up. They wanted to destroy all three men. But what Ground News does is collate all of the sources, 230 in this case, and then instantly shows how the story is being covered by the media based on whether the organizations are to the left or the right. It's called the bias distribution service. And you can scroll down and see every article about this topic broken down by the political position and ownership of the publication, which really matters. So in this case, of course, Fox News was fair and balanced, as you would expect, very much in contrast to Mediaite and The Independent. But what's more, Ground News gets to know you personally. It provides you with news stories you're interested in, but it also analyzes your own biases to come up with potential blind spots about stories you might not be hearing about. Look, I know you love the news. I do. But we don't trust the legacy media. So Ground News gives you the tools to understand the truth about what is going on in the world. It's actually the only way. I read the news now. I have the app on my phone. I love the website. It allows me to see through media bias and manipulative narratives without relying on the MSM to define what is the truth for me. So go to ground.news/outspoken to check it out. You can subscribe through my link for 40% off the Vantage plan, which is what I use for unlimited access. Now, I should say too, Ground News is subscriber funded. If you support it, you are supporting my work. And for less than a Netflix subscription, you get all of the world's news in one place. But most importantly, it allows you to think for yourself, which is such a game changer. So let me just repeat the address. That is ground.news/outspoken. If you are watching on YouTube or Rumble, you can click on the QR code on screen or in the description box below this show. But now, back to the news. And the problem is that the reason Brexit has never been successful is because we've had people like Piers Morgan doing it down.
Absolutely.
Refusing to allow it to happen from
Absolutely.
the moment the result came in. And it actually makes me so angry because these people claim to be patriots and actually all they want is to be part of the globalist order. It's depressing, but we know that. I mean, we literally have a prime minister. We literally have a prime minister who said he preferred Davos to Westminster, as in he would rather us be ruled by the really, really, and let's just be honest about this, Ben, shady characters who run the World Economic Forum, rather than allow us to have our own sense of sovereignty. And to me, that
Absolutely.
just sums it up. Sums
I mean,
him
that's
up.
he's anti-British.
Hmm.
And the vast majority of Labour parliamentarians are anti-British. There are some notable exceptions, but the vast majority are. And it's deeply distressing that we have a government that would wish to hand over power to a foreign power, that we have a government that, if it was able to do that, would take down our borders, hand over the control of our military to a foreign power. Starmer's trying to do that anyway, give control of our monetary policy over to a foreign power. All of this that's the end of the United Kingdom. That's the end of the United. Is that what he wants? I mean, it's just horrendous. The
Well,
prospect is horrendous.
I know, but I think it is what they want, Ben. I
It
mean,
is what they want.
they
Yeah.
literally want us to be controlled. They would be much more comfortable, these people, and you've really got to think about this. For example, during the pandemic, they would have been much more comfortable if our policy had been controlled by the World Health Organization, for example. Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are.